Hello everybody, and welcome to my Theorycraft for a Meteor Sorcerer in Diablo 4. Now this is made before all the info is out. Obviously the game is not launched yet, but I'm seeing what I can make based on what I know so far. So first off, Firebolt, pretty simple, just throws a fireball, but critical strikes with it increases your burning damage you deal by 20% for 4 seconds, so that's pretty good. Moving on, Fireball. Hurl an exploding ball of fire, dealing 84% damage to surrounding enemies. The radius is increased, and the explosion's critical strike damage is increased by 10% for each enemy hit. It increases this bonus by 5% up to 25%. Next up, we're going to go Flame Shield. Now the reason for this is because it makes you immune. It also gives you 25% movement speed while it's active, and it heals you for 50% of your missing life, so it's a really good defensive. We're going to take Elemental Attunement, so our critical hits have a 15% chance to reset either our Flame Shield or our Teleport. Teleport just teleports you forward, get 30% damage reduction, and reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds, depending on how many people you hit. And you deal 18% increased damage, but take 9% more damage. Moving right along. Gain 10% damage reductions against a leech for each second you haven't taken one, so if you dodge damage it just gives you more damage reduction. And then using a cooldown is going to grant you 30% of your max life as a barrier, so that's just going to help keep you alive. Pretty good stuff. So now we get to the Meteor. Summon a meteor that strikes the target location, dealing 70% damage and burning the ground for 49% damage over 3 seconds. If you cast Meteor hits 3 or more enemies, there's a 30% chance an additional meteor is going to fall at the same location, and Meteor falls 30% faster. You're going to take Pyromancy skills, deal 9% increased damage while you're healthy. You deal 30% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. If they're also immobilized, this bonus is increased to 75%, and your Pyromancy skills have a 15% chance to immobilize enemies for 2 seconds. This chance is doubled while you're healthy, just to do even more damage. And then Firewall. The main reason we're using this is to get this. Enemies take 25% increased burning damage from you while standing in Firewall. So this is just more and more damage. Then we got Inferno. Summon a fiery serpent that continually constricts the target area, burning enemies for 295% damage over 8 seconds. Pulls them in closer. This is going to be good to group things. And then while this is active, Pyromancy skills cost no mana. So that means you'll be able to just spam meteors. Killing a little bit of mana regen here. You deal increased burning damage up to 15% for each second they remain burning, 15% after 5 seconds, and then a little bit of a heal just if you have things burning. Key passive, we're going to take Isu's Ferocity. Your file critical strike damage is increased by 25% against enemies above 50% life, and your file critical strike chance is increased by 5% against enemies below 50% life. Killing an enemy with a critical strike grants the bonuses against all enemies for 3 seconds. So just a damage increase. So now going into the enchantments. So if you don't know, sorcerers, they have an enchantment slot you can put one of their abilities in, and that's going to help you, do stuff with it. So when you kill an enemy, they explode in a fireball for 50% of its damage. So this is the main reason why we're taking Fireball and actually buffing it, because it's going to scale based upon the amount of ranks we have in it. We're not actually going to be using Fireball all that much, but it's going to increase the radius by improving it and its damage. So whenever we kill stuff, it's going to explode, which is then going to do more damage, right? So we really can try to blow stuff up with the meteors. Firebolt is just our mana generator. It's really that simple. So, and then after that, we are going to want Firewall as our next enchantment. And the reason for that is because there's a chance for them to spawn 2 firewalls underneath them. It's just going to keep the 25% damage buff up more. The other option is to take Meteor, but a 3% chance for a Meteor to fall on enemies is just bad. That just doesn't seem very good to me. So I think Firewall would be a better take. So that's it for enchantments. So now let's go ahead and get into the offensive legendaries. So the first thing, Aspect of Ancient Flame. While both bonuses from Esu's Ferocity key passive are active, aka you've killed somebody with a crit, your attack speed is increased by 40 to 50%. So that's just a huge bonus from the key passive in terms of being able to cast meteors. Hail of meteorites falls during the inferno, dealing 102 to 125 fire damage on impact. Your meteorites immobilize enemies for 3 seconds. So that's going to help with that 75% increased critical strike damage thing from whenever your burning spells hit somebody that's immobilized. So now, but that's also just during your ultimate. But then we have Aspect of Shattered Stars. Meteorites fall around meteors, so this pretty much makes it to where it's actually a meteor shower now, as opposed to just being a meteor, right? Your meteorites additionally burn enemies they hit for 225 to 300 damage. So this is going to actually make it seem like a meteor shower instead of just one big meteor. Aspect of Retribution. This one's kind of core, I feel like, on the sorcerer, because it's like it might be their biggest percent damage increase. So you deal 30 to 50% increased damage to stun enemies, and you have a 15% chance to stun them whenever they hit you. So that's pretty good. But there could be an argument that you want to put this as on your two-handed weapon, so you can get 100% attack speed. Or you could put the conceded aspect on there so you get like 66% damage while a barrier is active. But yeah, so that's going to be the next one. Conceded aspect, deal 23 to 33% increased damage while you have a barrier active. You're going to have barriers active because of this right here. Using a cooldown grants 30% of your maximum life as a barrier. So next, you heal for 2.5 to 10 life per second for each close-up enemy. We want that just for survivability. Taking direct damage is a 5 to 10% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. So that's going to be really good for resetting your flame shield and your teleport. And your lucky hit chance is increased by 10 to 20% while you have a barrier active. So that's going to make any proc effect we have, a little bit faster. Now, there is a couple things here. So when it comes to the helm, right, you can pretty much take out any of these if you're feeling like you're having resource issues, because you might need a little bit more mana regen since you're spamming meteors. So your mana regen is increased by 10 to 20% if you're not taking damage. Then you also have casting a basic skill reduces the mana cost of your next. That's not really relevant. Restore 1 to 4 primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. So because your skills have a chance to immobilize, this is actually pretty good. So let's say you drop it on like 5 or 6 enemies, and now all of a sudden you got like 20. You kill them all, and now you got 24 mana back. So that's also pretty good. Gain 10 to 20 of your primary resource for every 20% of your life that you heal. So if you are taking damage and such, now I don't. So one thing I'm curious about is if it counts overhealing, because if it counts overhealing, then just casting your flame shield could be giving you resource back, but I'm not 100% certain on that if that's going to be how that works. But using a cooldown restores 15 to 25 mana. This is also pretty good because you have the increased lucky hit chance in order to reset your teleport and your flame shield. Burning damage has up to a 5 to 10% chance to restore 10 mana, and this is probably the one I would recommend the most if you're going to take one, is this, because you're going to be doing so much burning damage that the chance that you're just going to have an astronomical amount of mana back if you do this, especially when you consider you took this aspect of fortune, so your lucky hit chance is going to be really, really good. And then after that, I would say just take a Wind Striker aspect. Crits give you extra movement speed. Now, Sorcerer really just doesn't have all that much movement speed. It's kind of unfortunate. I went and looked around to see what they have, but really the only thing I saw was this, and then this stuff down here. So if you really want to make it a speed build, it kind of sucks because you can only be applied to your boots or your amulet, so you'd have to give up your amulet slot, and man, you really just, that's a lot of damage to give up for some movement speed. But then again, depending on what you're doing, it could be worth it. So, because 25% movement speed after teleporting, and keep in mind, I really think barbs are going to be really popular because they're going to be able to give everybody so much movement speed. So you're probably going to see barbs in quite a few groups. But yeah. So now going into the Paragon here, so Searing Heat, casting a fireball or meteor increases the critical strike chance of further cast of that skill by 5% for 5 seconds, up to 15%. Additional stacks do not refresh this timer. So as you're spamming it, you can probably keep up that 15% fairly easy all the time. So it's just a 15% crit buff on your Meteor. Not really doing any cold damage. We don't need that. Stunning. So this stunning close enemies restores 10 mana. This is actually kind of useful because you're running that one legendary, so that could be potentially useful for more mana regen. Conjuration skills. Nah, not really even using any of that. This is going to be the main one you want. Burning Instinct. Your burning damage is increased by 40% of your critical strike damage. Further increased by 5% for every 20 intelligence you have. Now, I'm not certain that if this means 5% damage or if it means it's going to go up by another 5% of your critical strike chance. Because if it goes up by a certain amount of your critical strike chance, then that means there's going to be a lot of incentive to build crit to get some really big damage buffs, or to just take intelligence to get huge damage buff from that. So Icefall, killing a frozen enemy grants you maximum life. Life is a berry, don't really need that. Don't need anything that has to do with electricity, and enchantments are 20% stronger, definitely could use that. So there's 3 legendary paragon slots you can use that are pretty good. But yeah, so this, I think this is going to turn out, I think this will turn out fairly good. I think this is going to turn out fairly good. I don't know if it'll end up being the sorcerer speed build or anything like that, but I do think it has an absolute ton of damage packed into it, and I think at the very least it'll be fun to play. Alrighty, well, that's going to be it for my Theorycraft of a Diablo 4 Meteor Sorcerer build, based on what we have as of April 15th. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.